Today I wanted to show you 3 flowering annuals that will survive the blazing heat all throughout the summer, but not only will they survive the summer, they'll actually, from planting till frost, have blooms pretty much all season long. And I may give you a few honorable mentions, so you might get that toward the end of this video too. Forewarning. We're Sebastian and Holly, and 10 years ago, we opened up our wellness business. Since then, we've been teaching people all about health and wellness. Flash forward to the pandemic, we were able to buy 3 acres of abandoned land that was soon to become our dream homestead.
But look at how fun is that? We got so many beets.
We designed the house and our landscape on our iPad Pro, and with the help of friends, family, and lots of how-to YouTube videos, we were able to build the entire thing by ourselves. Oh, and did I mention that we also own a nursery? Kind of by accident. The nursery exploded during the pandemic and we converted it over to an online nursery. We even began shipping plants nationwide. Join us as we try to keep up gardening, preserving food, managing our businesses, and somehow trying to stay sane. The first contender is right here behind me. It's called Cleome. Some people pronounce it Cleome. I've heard Cleome, other names like that, but this is Senorita Rosalita. This is a proven winners annual. See if you can find it in your area. If not, they might have other Cleomes. However, I will say that the proven winners annuals do not drop seed and start growing everywhere. Cleome can be invasive if you don't get one that's sterile. Proven winners one is sterile. These get huge. 3x3, even up to 4x4 if you water and fertilize it. I kind of neglected mine, which is why this one makes the list, because one, it survives the heat. It's been, you know, in the hundreds. Now it's kind of overcast, which is why I'm making the video. But it's literally in crummy soil. I've just kind of neglected it. I am watering it regularly because we have a little sprinkler system here. But even if you don't, it will bloom all summer long. I will show you one tip about it though. Right now, as you can see, it's pretty large and it is starting to kind of yellow in the bottom. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It means we need to come back and prune it a little bit so that the bottom growth can reflush and regrow. Pruning is optional. If you want it to stay more compact and dense, you can just leave it. Sometimes if you get a lot of rain in your area, it can split if you just leave it. This is an example of what it'll look like if you do prune it. It's starting to get lots of lush green growth that's really, really thick. Beautiful. And number 2 contender is right underneath. These are SunPatiens. These are by proven winners. I love SunPatiens. A con about them is they do need a lot of water. However, if you can either put them on drip or just remember to water them pretty regularly. Besides that, I would say they're pretty low maintenance. They don't like fertilizer and don't need it. They don't really need deadheading. They kind of just fall off. The blooms do once they're done for. And they're just blooming their heads off all day long. The hotter the heat, the more these bloom. They are amazing plants. I will say the deer do like them. However, our deer munched on ours for a little bit. You can cut them, you can prune them, and they just grow right back. So the deer have left ours alone and they're still looking beautiful. The nice thing is that SunPatiens come in every single color you can think of. So if you see them in your area and you live in a hot climate like California or Texas or anywhere else, these will thrive. Just remember to give them lots of water, but they'll be blooming their heads off pretty much all season long. And number 3 is a new release for this year. This one is called Campfire Marshmallow Bidens. It has these beautiful daisy-like flowers and blooms. One plant gets large. I didn't actually realize this year how large they get. We carry them at our nursery, so we grow them in little pots to sell to people. But this is our first year actually trying them out. It is in crummy soil. They are tough. They look lush green all the time. The deer have not bothered ours. And they're just pretty low maintenance. So a little goes a long way. If you have these, definitely I would say put them in the landscape. They look nice in containers, but in the landscape, they really, really make a big impact. Now, one thing about the Marshmallow Bidens, you see it looks beautiful, but the inside's kind of open. That's because we have a shop shed building here, and we had a bad storm. That water just rushed down and really, really whacked the inside of this. Otherwise, this would be one giant ball. This is one plant right here, one plant. Now, you see in the middle, now that it's open and the sun is getting to it, it's actually making new growth in the middle. So I can either let it go, or I can prune this a little bit and it will flush back brand new. But I mean, these blooms and how tough these are, I just love them. I'm gonna do it. Let's just do some honorable mentions and others that really, really thrive in the heat. This is the Ageratum. This is the Artist Blue. From planting, it looked like this. It has not stopped. And I wish I would have planted more and purchased more this year. It's just an absolute beast. It looks like this all the time. I love the blue with this lemon coral sedum. It just looks fresh and happy. I want a ton of areas. Holly did this planting here. It looks so nice, this combo. And we used to have this lobelia here, which as you can see, did not make it through our heat. It did actually last longer than I thought, but this is why you see this here. We're going to pull this out, find something else to plant, but lemon coral sedum, I'll say, is another honorable mention. I didn't really want to add it to this list because it's just, you know, here it's evergreen in our area. We are in zone 8 near Greenville, South Carolina. Oh, they're just so pretty. Look at this beast. This is another honorable mention, though it is not a flowering annual. For us here, it's actually a perennial, but I'll back up and show you. It's huge. I'm about 6 feet, and this is about 6 feet tall right now, and it can get even bigger. Look how absolutely lush and huge, and this is one leaf right there. Look at my hand. It's a monster. That one is called Coffee Cups by Proven Winners. The heat here, it doesn't even phase it. It is absolutely beautiful. Another honorable mention. Right now it looks kind of sweet and dainty because we haven't really done much with this. If it got more water, it'd be a lot bigger. But this is Lantana. Lantanas love the heat. They come in all sorts of color. Let me show you another Lantana that we got that's also doing beautifully. This is the Grape Lantana. It's more of a spreader crawler. It actually was all the way to here, and I just pruned it back, and it's starting to just flush now in blooms. This is kind of that season in summer where some things are in a lull, some things are stressed from the heat. I had to cut back. And this, you can see the dark green foliage and growth. It's just loving life. This is the Grape Lantana. Again, you can use this as a ground cover because it has a more spilling habit. You can grow it in a container for it to be a filler and a spiller, all sorts of things. Deer do not like Lantana. I also forgot to mention deer don't like Cleome because they have a smell to them. It's not a bad smell, but they just don't like it. And the last one to the list, and maybe I'll add a few more. I don't know. I can't stick to 3. It is the hardy hibiscus. I believe this is the perfect storm. Don't mind these leaves. We have some bugs sometimes that bother them. We did spray some BT and they're fine now, but look at these beautiful blooms. They have this ombre effect from the center where it's dark, and then they have these veins that are more of like a magenta and white blooms. They're just covered along with the really deep purple leaves, and it's a big plant. This is just one plant. This is a perennial in our area. I was walking by the garden and I just couldn't help myself. This is the phenomenal lavender. This is, I believe, Southern Living's, or we got it from Walter's Gardens. Either Southern Living or Walter's Gardens, either one carries the phenomenal lavender. We planted this in a quart size and now it's huge. It is the only lavender, from my knowledge, that really does really well in our area here in this crummy clay soil that we have. Typically, lavender hates wet feet. This one just survives. It looks this beautiful all the time, and it gets bigger and it blooms. It's got this bluish silver foliage. This is obviously a perennial, but look at behind here. Holly planted these from seed. These are dwarf Zahara zinnias. They come in all sorts of color, but this one specifically is the raspberry ripple. You can see inside our garden, but right here we have the same zinnias intermixed with this snapdragon. This is Angelonia, perfectly pink by Proven Winners. But we grew these from seed. I don't know if you can see, but they're just covered. If you're looking to do your landscape on a budget, or if you have a lot of areas that you want to cover, but you just don't want to have to buy a ton of plants, the zinnias you can actually grow from seed, and they're dwarf. They're also disease resistant. Here in our area, it's really humid, and zinnias tend to get a mildew and all the other diseases where the leaves get really gross and they stop blooming. These zinnias here do not. You can see the leaves are just beautiful green and they keep blooming. When the flowers age, you can start to see they kind of brown a little bit. They will naturally fall off and will continue to produce. If you feel like deadheading, they will produce even more and faster, but you don't have to. But you can literally just broadcast seed everywhere in your landscape and cover it with those. Here is a more tame version of the Marshmallow Bidens. This area is not on irrigation, so they are smaller, but they still look great and they're performing great. A few more Ageratum. Those back there are a little smaller because they're also not on irrigation. But it just goes to show, if you have flowers that do really well, even when they're not on irrigation and they survive the summer heat, that is a keeper in my book. Love reading your comments, and we have created a really fun community here with you guys that you just keep letting us know what zone you're in, what you're growing, what are your favorite flowers that you grow, and what you're growing at this time in the summer. It's really fun to know what you're growing in your area. And also, if you have flowers that we don't know about, it's always really fun for us to try them out. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next one.